Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for the launch of Channel Issue 5. This issue's been made in an uncertain time, and what I love about the work in it is that it seems to thrive in uncertainty. The work in this issue is ambitious and unsettling in all the best ways. It's multifaceted and full of experimentation and new ideas, and we can't wait to share some of it with you through tonight's readings. If you're looking forward to hearing from someone in particular, there'll be a lineup in the description box with timestamps to let you know who's up when. We've also invited our contributors to share photos with us of the places they live in and the places that inspire their work, which you'll find started in between the readings. The photos come from everywhere from Memphis to Shanghai, as well as from around Ireland. And we hope you'll enjoy the insights they offer into the different worlds our contributors are writing from. Finally, we'll be including an introduction to the work of our wonderful cover artist, Kevin Mooney, who Elizabeth will tell you more about in just a moment. Before then, I want to say a huge thanks to tonight's readers, to all our contributors, and to everyone involved in issue 5 for making this issue one we can be really proud of. Huge thanks as well to the Arts Council and to our patrons for the financial support that's made this issue possible. And we hope you'll enjoy the launch.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for being here for another online launch. I'm delighted to be here, and even more so to get to share with you the work of Kevin Mooney, our issue 5 cover artist. Kevin's painting Peasant forms the cover of Channel issue 5, and getting to work with him over the last couple months and learn more about his practice and his vision has been an honor. Kevin is a Cork-based artist who makes paintings that speculate about the connections between the folk cultures of Irish emigres and the cultures of the Caribbean, as well as their absence from Ireland's art history record. Kevin, as a painter trying to connect with the visual history of Ireland, has found the 17th century to be somewhat of a void within the records, one blurred by complicated migrations and the exodus of cultural memories, identities, and traditions under colonial rule. Through his work, Kevin engages a cross-cultural and historical artistic imagination that attempts to access and give form to this void. His work haunts and provokes, displacing romantic expectations associated with folk and nature imagery, and challenging us to look with curiosity and honesty upon this complicated and contested historical period. We find incredible resonance with what Kevin's work evokes within the work published in issue 5, and more broadly within this particular historical moment. Kevin's current commissioned solo exhibition, The Earlish Tide, is open in the Excel Gallery, Tipperary, until the 27th of November, and we so encourage you to visit the Excel Gallery to see Kevin's work and to visit his website, which we've linked in the description box below. We'll be sharing photos of his paintings now before we begin hearing from some of our issue 5 contributors, and throughout the launch video as well. Thank you all again so much for being here. We hope that you enjoy.
Well, that's what I feel about it.
Meistä ei ole kukaan täällä koskaan ollut, niin ei mitään kauhean.
gesamte Geldvermögen der Welt Aber jetzt mal eine Frage, warum sollen die Länder zulassen, dass am Ende alles
Hello, I'm Rhona McAdam. I live in Victoria, British Columbia on the west coast of Canada. I'm honored to be in channel issue number 5, and I wanted to thank Elizabeth and Cassia and everyone who've helped them to make this possible. It's an honor to be part of it. First I will read the poem that's included in the issue. It's called Penumbra. The day of the solar eclipse, the shadows of trees split into crescent moons on the pavement. Look, I said to the dog, the world has changed. There was a chill in the air and the light went glassy. A man passed us offering UV glasses to families laying out their solar eclipse picnics and afraid to look at the sun. I was waiting outside the cafe when it happened, and a man came out with a welder's mask and said, "Do you want to look?" And I saw the lack of it as the moon slid its face over the face of the sun as if its colder twin. And that is when I went walking, and everywhere the sun littered the ground, falling from the trees in its thousands as it waned and waxed, releasing us from heat and light, repeating itself as if nothing on earth mattered. And the second poem I'll read is, like the first, from a collection of poems that will be published in May 2022 here in Canada under the title Larder. So there are a number of poems in the collection that have something to do with food, and this is one of them, Gravy. Who'd want to live in a world without gravy, which makes all things equal on the plate, which gives potatoes a smooth ride, which comforts the meat it came from? If gravy were the world, there'd be no war, just happy islands in a savory sea. We'd all be warm enough in our blanket of brown. There'd be no need for knives, we could curl forever in the wombs of ladles. Floured or cornstarched, thickened or reduced, let it line your plate like the fabric of childhood and sign its name on the Sunday roast. Let it swoon in your Yorkshires and kiss each vegetable good night. Thanks so much for listening.
Hello, my name is Adam van Graan. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I have 2 poems in issue 5 of the channel called Ratcatcherfields and Duck Watching, but I am just going to be reading Ratcatcherfields because it is quite long. So, Ratcatcherfields. It is true I have come here in my dreams as if in a riddle, but my body nor my searchlight would not find me through this field, yet it is you. Surely it is you there I am here, and these are Ratcatcherfields that catch light as if in Glasgow, or in the rear-view mirror of a car, as if it is a pocket. God sometimes slips the sun in and leaves there, and so many leaves. So many of them, they are against the road like coins, and they swell and hush at an engine coming, or they quiver forward, delighted by a gust of wind making its way between your street and mine. It is possible to fall in love. I have done it. With a pylon or cherry picker or siren. It is possible to see your whole life reflected in a single red brick in the structure of the fish shop. It is true you have lost everything on the corner of a street by the mall. It is true life was worth anything when a coin fell and you heard it. or you knew the feeling of a button between your index and your thumb, or you were outside when a lemon fell and hit the earth, and are you sure it was the lemon hitting the earth, or your heart? I don't know, it ceased to matter. I am in Ratcatcherfields, I am walking. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the launch.
Hi everyone. I want to thank Elizabeth and Cassia for choosing this story, and I'm looking forward to everyone else's work, listening to it and looking at it, reading it. And this is a short selection from this story, I Go Down to the Sea. Half an hour. It's like looking at art. I can take it for so long and then it's too much. Half an hour with the wind and the waves. To drown, I wonder, to drown. So simple. If all else could be done then. Half an hour of exquisite. Dogs to feed, fire to set, clothes to wash. A way of getting from 1 hour to the next, from morning to afternoon to home time, then homework and food and dishes and early evening, night and bedtime. Somewhere in there I do something, not too long, briefly, just enough, like the deep inhale of the tide back out to itself, like it just might never come back, just doing enough, unsure though, waiting, and so far. Everything else is just a distraction. Paying attention elsewhere, not quite a superstition, more like if you look at it, it'll flee, head up and away, so each day it needs to be found somewhere else, maybe early, maybe late, in one form or another, scented in the midst of doing, a recognition. Sometimes it's enough just to glimpse it, sometimes touched, sometimes it stays, flies up into a corner and settles in. But each day a space needs to be cleared, just in case, so down to the sea we go, 1 dog or 2 dogs and me. I go there each morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I go there between 9:15 and 9:30. I stand there and let the sound of the sea draw it all out, half an hour, then turn back one more time and one more time and one more time, washing up into my life endlessly, endlessly into something the shape of which no one ever drew, being and being and being, doing and doing and doing, to do, to do, to do, writing myself into myself each day. The light is bright now on the birch bark outside my window. It left the sun 499 seconds ago, 1 astronomical unit. That's more than 8 minutes and 31 seconds, and less than 8 minutes and 32 seconds, so the sun can rise and have read this story before you feel its first ray. A darkness that is neither night nor day. Now isn't ever, simply now. It has been, and it will be. I go down to the sea each day, 1 dog or 2 dogs and me. Thank you.
Aeons ago, a volcano erupted all around, down around, out around sea, formed a lagoon, safe, undisrupted for coconut palms and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds to grow by the island edges. Come dance along the island edge. Polyps made coral in the clear, all around, down around, out around sea, evolving together for millions of years, grew coconut palms and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds, dance, dance by the island edges. Come dance along the island edge. Humans sailed in with dogs, fruit and hens, all around, down around, out around sea, settled into the ecosystem in balance with coconut palms and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds, all dancing by the island edges. Come dance along the island edge. But distant countries made inhumane battle all around, down around, out around sea. They made the sky roar and they made the earth rattle for coconut palm and coral reef, hermit crab, angelfish, seed. People who dance by island edges, we dance along the island edge. Bombers dropped Abel, then Baker, then Bravo, all around, down around, out around sea. Then Union and Yankee, Romeo, Kudo, coconut palm and coral reef, hermit crab, angelfish, seed, exploded by the island's edges, skittered along the island edge. The Atoll's people got exiled, crammed all around, down around, out around sea, onto islands radioactive, downwind, no coconut palms or coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seed, by precipitous concrete edges, life teetering on an island edge. Back at Bikini, the bombers kept at it, all around, down around, out around sea. They sullied the codes, red wing, hardtack, the coconut palm and coral reef, hermit crab, angelfish, seed, turned to mud on the island edges. None danced along the island edge. By fallout water, the people were sickened, all around, down around, out around sea. Migrated to pluck and pack factory chickens and long for the palm trees and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds, a return to the island edges to dance along the island edge. Winds howled, waves swept in from rusted, all around, down around, out around sea. Bunkers crawled hermit crabs, tiny and tough, oh coconut palm and coral reef. Mend yourselves, grow back from seed, scattered to muddy island edges. Return along the island edge. Coconut crabs, hot, 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 don't you try. All around, down around, out around sea. To eat hot crabs, for you'll surely die. Thrive, coconut palm and coral reef. Yellow crab, angelfish, seed. Return to the island edges. Come dance along the island edge. 100 years, let island food nourish all around, down around, out around sea. Well, water slake thirst if tides don't submerge the coconut palms and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds, all dancing by the island edges. People dance on the island edge. For 2 million years keep the poles frozen over, all around, down around, out around sea. And in paradise may warm breezes blow over coconut palms and coral reefs, hermit crabs, angelfish, seeds, all dancing by the island edges. Dance, dance along the island edge.
Hello, my name is Pragya Bhagat, and I'm going to be sharing 2 poems with you today. The first one is called Portrait of S at Arambol. S rests Mowgli style on his board in the surf, a floating survivor chained to his anchor. He tells me I taught him how to swim. I don't remember. I wish I did. If Ma was here, she would grind her teeth at his abandon, pray for him to crash so he would leave one womb for another. If Papa was here, he would click pictures of my brother, hands on head, arrested by adrenaline, waiting for the ocean to inhale. The second poem is called Flowergirl. Come morning, I steal the essence of jasmine, kiss one wrist to the other, caress the cave between jaw and earlobe. He nuzzles my neck, inhales deep. What does he know of decay? Its demure, heavy-lidded gaze. The nose rejects nothing. The slap of Delhi's gutters when I leave the airport. Sandalwood festering under burqas long after they billow by. A manager's soaked armpit swinging in the metro like a chimp at the zoo. Come evening, I scavenge orange-stemmed blossoms I don't know the name of, henna-crusted balms, sticky with lemon, mildew in a fluorescent hotel room. I hand him a wrinkled hibiscus, tuck a violet behind his ear, build a graveyard in his palm. He calls me his flower girl. Thank you.
There, as I turn the corner, feet firmly planted on the headland, apart, knees bent as if riding a horse, arms raised, single whip. Stood in front of the sandstone stone seat, a carved dedication to Kitty and Sandy, the eye lost to natural or man-made causes. Looking out to sea, I think female. I know you see me. I see you grasp the bird's tail, pull it towards you. Below, blocks of black rock, splattered trickles of white guano. Rows of sleek cormorants, wings opening and closing like shaken out city umbrellas. You are raising hands, stepping forward. I feel the push. 3 finger widths below the navel, Tantien, I hear you say, in that cold room in front of the mirror, trying to balance, closed hand, fist. I miss the grace of wings, white crane, creased and folded, stuffed inside an airmail envelope. sent to the island of lost voices. Cloud hands circling, spooling silk across her body, throat, abdomen. The sound of the sea, glass surface splintering, 1,000 jagged pieces. Arms wide, ribcage raised, floodgates opening, the burn of salt, crystals on the tongue. I feel the rush, flanks of waves swelling, heaving and hefting, like a herd of unsettled water buffalo slipping the shores of Shappan Sea. Stomping, Widdershins first, then Sunwise, in a fury. Thank you.
Jangmi. It's the moon again, Mom said, washing the dishes. The full moon does something to their brains, ups the crazy. She dried her hands on a kitchen towel and turned towards me. Bless them. Outside, a woman was screaming, laughing, calling out a name, apparently chasing someone. But when I looked out the window, she was alone. Her name was Jangmi, Korean for rose. She was a town lunatic. Mom had a theory about her. It's something in their brains, you see. They have water, a different kind of water than the rest of us, the kind of water that responds to the moon differently. Most people just have a puddle, or a brook, a lake if they're lucky. But them's got a whole ocean in their brains. It ebbs and flows with the moon, pulls back and lets go as the moon waxes and wanes. When it's full, they're full. When it's away, they're away. I believed her. There was something watery about Jangmi, her smile especially, spilling all over her face, making it round, moon-like. She was older than us, but I'd never seen her in school. Rumor had that she'd enrolled for the first grade 4 times until the teachers gave up, told her mother that she'd be better occupied in a more liberated setting. Since then, she was always seen out and about in small and big streets in the town, in her boxy poppy red dress, usually with a wildflower or a blade of grass behind one ear, clipping her greasy bob sleek like a mussel shell under the moonlight.
Hi there, I'm Ben Murray. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I'd like to read a poem called Coffee Talk in the Anthropocene. Over fair trade talks, disputes, we cradle mugs, warming lips, tongues, cores by degrees. You say pikas scurry among us, and not just the us who scramble juniper, summit, and scree. No, you say there are pikas who've left altitude behind and are here, below, checking us out, foraging the news. Step off subways and see, you say. Fur blur, cornering your eye, glimpse, we pause, dodge Reebok herds. They're here, you say, to find out what's up with winter's wane, the death of cool. You've got me paranoid. I'm looking for pikas everywhere. I look in mirrors, expecting one perched on a shoulder. Under midnight covers, I swear pikas nibble my toes. In my pockets, I find pellets of fur. What would I say to a pika that asks the big questions, points pause? One endangered species to another, I might just sweat the small stuff, plead insanity. I know what you'd say, do. You'd find some meltwater, teach the pika to swim, and after you'd whisper sweet contrition into those twitching satellite ears. Apologies good to the last drop.
Soviet American blues under the elevated highway in New Pudong. Also God made the stars. Genesis 1:16. Yes, if the ruin of my intellect is too apparent to deny, will you not look at me? No, I do not deny that I am stuck in China, scrolling up and down on Yahoo News, like a ray of light remembering the earth, or like the earth remembered in an afterlife, in visions of the light, and steps and steps and steps of duty to the source of light, the formal laws of which were never known to Kant. I go out for a walk and meet the darkness in variously colored clothing on a sunny day, in all the four directions of the city, and hanging like the man they crucified, between the burning sun and the unsunburned city, which this year lost the parasols, which God knows why. In my window I can see it all night long, hanging and sweating off its yellow light, which when it sweats the last of, it will die. Die under the imaginary nighttime shadow of that giant building, not really in any incestuous Greek relation to the Mother Earth, the giant building there behind the highway that hangs raised on posts of cement steel, like old Antaeus in the myth, and something like the Christ the Gospel keeps on in its frightening way about the raising up of. That makes the place resemble Moscow, in some late Soviet way, not easy to find any name to name, like those indeterminate situations of Mardashvili, and something like those little sculptures of Vadim Sidor. Always too late, no matter what you do or think or say, and under it that streetlight. Also God made the stars. There is a streetlight here, and hiding from the skies above, like the early Christians in their catacombs, hiding from the powers of the Caesars, in waiting for the revelation of the power and the glory of the skies, that reads the Bible every night, and never gets beyond. Also God made the stars. And it is beautiful, more beautiful it is than can be held in memory, and so is lost each day and comes into new being every night, like a reverse mock turtle of a Heraclitean sun. And I have seen the yellow emperor sit on a wicker chair he himself plaited, with 2 huge carts of chairs all up for sale, his tired old wife, a friend, and their mutt dog. You start to notice dogs when once you have one, and keep on noticing after you give your dog away how many dogs around there are. All these sit playing cards together under that bridge above. The carts were leading and about to win, but then the dog barked meanly and threw down 3 cards.
Hi, my name is James Hudson, and I'll be reading an extract from my story, Jack Goes to Hunt a Werewolf, with art by my good friend Emma Woods. The night before the expedition, Jack stays in a B&B 45 minutes out from the forest. The Gaelgors running the place tell him they usually host hikers and nature walkers, but business slowed when folks started going missing, and it halted completely when a body was found. Ta Bron Jack answers haltingly before finding his room. He's a better listener than a speaker, no matter the language. In the rooms adjacent to Jack's are the other 2 clients Sean will be escorting into the forest tomorrow. On one side, an owl fella searching for rare mushrooms. On the other, a woman from Dublin looking for her missing college classmate. The 2 avoid each other stringently, aware that one of their quarries might be found growing out of the other. Jack hangs around both of them at dinner and again at breakfast the following day. It's quiet. He's the only one horsing down his food, 2 years on testosterone and still suffering a teenage appetite. The Banan tea breaks their party silence, swinging by the tables to tell a story about a couple who showed up to the B&B in the nip because their clothes had gotten swept away when they tried swimming in the River Lee. She tells the whole thing Oscuelga and the owl fella translates it for them, with giddy side-eyes to Jack whenever the nude woman comes up. Before Sean shows up to collect them, Jack tells the owl fella and the Dubliner to stay by his side once they get deep in the forest. He doesn't say why. The owl fella wants to know if Sean can't be trusted. Not exactly, Jack shrugs. The Dubliner wants to know why they should trust Jack instead. It's a long story, Jack says. It's not convincing, but something about Jack's clipped speech or his subtle dark stubble must win them over. As they near the heart of the forest, both their gazes are locked on Jack's boots, carefully walking in each of his footprints. This much authority won't satisfy him. He's a stranger here. Sean knows the land in a way you can only know from walking it every day. No matter what Jack knows about the missing persons in these woods or what happened to them, no matter how in control of the situation Jack wants to be, as soon as they stepped into the forest park, Sean was in charge. Jack blusters ahead anyway. He can lead the pack. He's a hunter, for fuck's sake. He starts taking hard stomping steps through the woods. Suddenly, Sean jumps ahead and cuts Jack off at the pass with an arm slammed across his chest. He picks an old slimy stick out of the undergrowth, disarming an ancient bear trap under the moss, so rusted that his teeth barely sink into the soft wood.
Hi, I'm Jade Wallace. I'm coming to you from Ontario, Canada, sitting in the yard today on a lawn chair with some wildflowers. I'm going to read my poem from Channel. It's called Biologically Dead. I did not know that water could die. I learned that it could when ecologists played doctor to the river in the land where I was born and declared it biologically dead, which did not mean that it had become a carcass, but that it had become a graveyard, where the bones of fish and other creatures lay undisturbed by those that live on corpses. I pass over the river often as tourists hail rides to carry them between short-stay condos that their taxi drivers could never afford. They know this, and so regard us as servants, which is to say that they don't mind breaking the law in our presence, because they assume that we are too slow to notice or too meek to scold them. And I do keep my eyes on the road when customers get high or fuck each other in the back seat, mostly because I don't care, but everyone has a threshold. Those two boys were the worst of them. Didn't look at me when they got in, couldn't have picked me out of a police lineup afterwards. They didn't bother to try and explain why the two of them were staggering under the weight of an improbably large box and guilt that they fobbed off into my trunk. Finally, after they stopped me in the middle of a bridge just past the poor district, after they made an unintentional spectacle of throwing the box into the river because they were too scrawny-armed to do it gracefully, after they got back in the car, still not looking at me, finally, they muttered, "Garbage." I can't say why they even chose that spot. I don't think they were sure where we were, but I guess a lot of globetrotters look at slums and thank God for the rain, noticing trash before they recognize homes. By the time I let them out, I knew it was a girl in that box. I knew it before I went to the police, before I heard the story on the news. It's always a girl. I thought of all the people who must have driven her before me, none of them able to foretell who the last person to drive her would be. I'm never just a cabbie. Sometimes I'm a paramedic for pregnant mothers, a moving van operator for bachelors, a gondolier for lovers, a postal worker delivering boxes carrying gifts from abroad. Only once have I been an undertaker, unwillingly bringing a body to the water, returning the dead to the dead. Still, life insinuates itself. Like grass grows over graves, fish have wriggled back to some tracts of the river. In time, they will revive human flesh to a new form that will not even remember the junketers who cared so little for what we were before them, who will never see what we become after they are gone. Thank you very much to Channel for inviting me to read, and hope you all have a lovely day.
Sorry.
Oxymandarin, understory. Oxymandarin like to go round in circles, but then opposed, like a dream in which everything is different. Ox dances an intricate pattern of steps that together weave a token, or a shroud. Mandarin lies quiet, thinking, of what's real and what passes like rains often pass, after days of storm of things that fall and fall again. Once an angel appeared to save a traveler. Ox and Mandarin know this to be true, for such tales carry their own discretions. And so much moves when you're not looking, and so much wanders at night from barren beds. Many things can be named priceless in this world, but not the begetting of yourself upon yourself as Mandarin does, as Ox tries time after time with hide and worn bones and the calling of old spirits that inhabit this strip of land, this preliminary boundary of being, not yet to be, and never have been at all, which for Mandarin is instance and bounty. And whenever the ground rises to meet great hooves and sallow tongues, it tells tales of dust and wondrous soil that eradicates when spoken to, or multiplies into the 7 mysteries of the unaware. That of the toadstool, that of the salt, that of the rodent, that of the nesting grounds, that of the furrowed heart, that of the worker bee, that of the trampled king, the ground, in you. Sometimes a healing touch is built into the beaches, so they shed their burrs like benedictions, like some mark along the way. Ox and Mandarin walk among them soft-footed, like sinners that dare not ask forgiveness, but marred by this singular beauty anyway.
Hello, I'm Carolyne Wright. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington, on unacknowledged and unceded, but ever more recognized Duwamish land. And I'm reading my poem, Watched by Whales, coming out in the issue number 5 of Channel magazine. Watched by Whales. Sun floods the dunes this morning with Cape Cod's Indian yellow wash, and I try to scat whistle Herbie Hancock's dolphin dance between my teeth as I bound up the swaying, walk the plank steps, and give my syncopated tap, tap, tapping on your door. Want to come be watched by whales? I ask the wooden panel swinging inward and the rectangle of shadow from which you emerge, heavy-lidded, averting your glance as the dunes' lemon reflections strike the planes of your face. And I repeat my invitation, squint grinning to deflect the threat. Above us, wavering V's of geese yelp in unison like a big band's reed section. You gaze down at me as if I were the busybody from Porlock nosing in on your private Xanadu. Say what? You mutter, your voice dusty with reluctance. Have you been at work, asleep? Is a woman with you? Your arm across the door space blocks my view inside. I shiver in late October's sudden chill. Keep it light, I chide myself as I stutter to explain. The season's last whale watch. Some painters, a novelist, and I are getting tickets. Would you like to join? I finish with some quip that Ahab never had it so easy, you know, with Moby Dick. then flush as the look on your face makes me follow the thread of that comment to its race-baited source. No, no, no. You mutter, thanks, then shut the door. The whole exchange, 2 minutes. To your 5 words, I've spilled 5 score, shivering in the quickened breeze, still talking as your door closes. How foolish do I feel? I shrug. I don't believe in all or nothing at all. I've done what I could to be a pal, drawing the line at friendship. I clatter down the rocking steps, still in my right mind, not yet anybody's consolation prize. From inside your shuttered studio, you never see the pod of fin whales frolicking off the prow, breaching and spouting in the slate gray scud as the captain cuts the engines, and in the sudden lull, a young whale breaks from the ponderous royal to leap straight up, nose to house-high tail, flukes against the sky. He arcs over the deck, hanging a moment like a dancer in sheer wind as the railing's length of watchers gasps, and he slides back like a pewter blade, shelving into the wave storm. I grip the rail in a speechless breeze. I never tell you. No man has ever thrust his summer into me like that. Thank you.
I'm Lynn, Cecil, and I will be reading from my short story, Night Swimming. I haven't been sleeping a lot since I drowned. I realize I've spoken aloud and look at the other passengers in front of me on the bus, wondering if anyone heard me, but they're all staring ahead, their toques and parka hoods bouncing simultaneously as if attached to invisible strings. I'd just been sitting there, getting dizzy from the snowstorm, rushing past the window and trying not to worry about the bus skidding off the road into the St. Lawrence River, when I noticed him, Keir Griffin. Just like that, he appeared, flattened between the bus window and the heavy snow melting like rain, the blue limbs of trees scratching across his face as if he'd absorbed the speeding Quebec forest into his pores. "Lexi," he said, "you look awful." That's when I blurted out that I haven't been sleeping. The part about drowning took me by surprise, though. Keir, too. His face scrunched up tight, then he tried to smile, but could only grimace. I had to look away. He couldn't be real, but now I sneak another look at the window. Keir is still there, staring at me like he's expecting an explanation. "I'm going diving," I tell him. But this isn't what he wants to hear. I know he doesn't believe me, but truth is a flexible commodity between us, one bartered and traded this summer. The bus lurches as if it has hit something and jolts to a stop. I look out the window and see only snow-covered trees, brushed twilight blue. Keir is gone. From the front of the bus, Alain, one of our dive instructors, announces we're in for a surprise, that everyone is to follow him into the forest. We trudge through the deep snow around snow-sagging evergreens and shadow-deepening silence, no one even speculating what could be hidden at this random stop. The forest opens to a round clearing where something too angular, too metallic, too unnatural looms before us. A container trailer, looking like it was somehow dropped from the sky. Alain has us gather round, then unlocks the padlock on the double doors. "Une personne à la fois," he says, flinging the doors open and unleashing a confined smell of dry rot, salt, loss. One by one we take turns entering, while Alain shines a light into the darkness. I stretch out my arms, touch curved ribs. I am inside a whale. An entire skeleton of a whale has been reassembled into this container, and I am standing inside its belly. Why? Why is there a whale skeleton hidden deep in the forest? Why does Alain have a key? But this is how things are now, I tell myself, remembering Keir. I ask questions to which answers are denied. Another hour later, we pull up to a blocky 2-story building, the red and white diving symbol barely visible against white clapboards in the single overhead light and swirling snow. Where we've arrived in Les Escoumins, a town several hundred kilometers north of Quebec City, hugging the shore of the St. Lawrence River where it meets the ocean. Late November, snow forecasted all weekend, and about 20 of us are here for our open water exams.
Hello, this is Sandra Ketcher coming to you from Minnesota in the US. I wanted to be outside because it's gorgeous autumn, but actually there is already snow. The snow smell is already in the air. I am very happy to be part of this project. I want to thank Elizabeth and Cassia for being such lovely, lovely editors. If they were all like you, poetry would be a happier place. I'm going to read two poems. This first one is called Trust. Last year I fell off a cliff, and it was a short cliff, but it was very rocky, and I'm actually still dealing with the consequences. So the idea of falling is never far from my mind. Trust. Let it hold you like pine-clad mountains beside treacherous roads, stopping your fall. Let everything stop your fall. The newborn's eyes fluttering open, sunlight bouncing leaf to leaf, the gold butter wrapper scraped clean, jam clotted on the knife used to sweeten your griddled toast, napkins that offer themselves to your buttery hand, the receipt crumpled beside the plate. Let it pour over you like rain after seasons of drought, like light radiating from the long red hair of a woman staring out a window. All this on a table at 10 in the morning, stopping your fall. And I have a second poem. It's about my favorite dog, Woodrow. He's actually my son's dog, but I spend winter in Arizona, so he's my dog for 4 months. The poem is called The Poet Walks Her Dog. Woodrow and I, new to the street, launch ourselves down the porch steps, eager to sniff out the neighborhood. His first stop, a palm tree with its trunk scraped at the base, a gossip column for him to read. For me, a cluster of poppies, orange petals fluttering like pages of a book open in the wind. We race past the oily skunk of fresh-pressed asphalt. At a metal grate, he flops and rolls. It looks so delicious, I'm tempted, but I don't have his downward dog flexibility or his joyful self-forgetfulness. While I name and judge, he ambles along, perfectly matching my stride, breathing it all in, letting it all pass. Thank you.
Gravity gone, and I should have sounded an alarm. It happened in September on Mayacamet Beach. No lifeguard was on duty when Jane was swept away. The surf is often rough, and a rip current can drag the strongest swimmer from shore. A minute later, Jane emerged from the waves and floated above her parents' heads. Mom grabbed her left ankle, Dad her right, and they rose as if lifted by a balloon. This was no clown show, no child's birthday party. Fishermen looked up, and as they watched the family pass, they too lost their footing and drifted towards Sankaty Light. Its one red horizontal stripe was the backdrop to insanity, its color a precursor to death. Soon, the entire island was shaded by clouds of people leaving the earth, a magnetic attraction of one body following another into space. There were no scientists left at Egan to explain, no reporters to inquire, no piñatas hung from trees. I put my feet on the floor that morning and shook my head at the lies, never thinking the ground would not hold the weight of myself. I didn't think to grab a stick, didn't think I'd be blindfolded in a search for what might be sweet. There was no smile on my face. Still, I took my turn, walked to the beach single file, kept silent about acceleration, intensity. No one sounded an alarm. Up in the clouds, it did not matter who left the ground first. It did not matter who believed in science.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe, and it's a privilege for me to be part of this special event. And I want to say a big thank you to Cassia and Elizabeth for including my work in this wonderful issue. The title of the poem I'll be reading is called Elegy for My Mother's Cows and Goats, after Ruth Howard. If you're gone, I mean really gone, then whose voice is that veining through the curtains of dawn? Often I've prayed for a moist condensation. I cluster my supplication in one focal area, a land just beyond the meadow, with its leaves suddenly back. An ordinary house where my mama suits her little lambs to sleep, not before feeding them with Earth's green milk. My mother was born from a heat wave, a descendant of flowers and skillet, 60% agricultural tools. She smells like a ripe cotton field. Is it memory if she stands in the wood and everything alive becomes a bother? We are for the greens and watches her squint. I have stood in my own path and passed my shade, a dwelling full of new possessions and a very large FedEx box, a congregation of need. Dear God, is this what elegy is? The second poem I'll be reading for this event is called July Morning. In my favorite fantasy, I want to sit sinless in my dream for sparrows. The sun sets and I look out the window of my heart, and everything I love is made from a birch tree. Lord, I'm terrified of swallowing an orange branch. I know it's not always about anguish. Everything changes, and I've learned the sky forgives. There are whole days I want to leap into the yellow silk morning where I left you. It is no surprise that love has nothing to do with climate change, air density, or science. Thank you so much for listening. My name remains Ojo Tai. Bye.
Hello, I'm thrilled to be in another Channel magazine launch, and it's lovely to be here with everyone. So I'm going to read the two poems in this issue. The first one is Dinosaur Boy. I live by the sea. When we arrive, the sea's still beating out thunderous footsteps. You greet the cliff with ballyhoos and a small hammer. You're our chest-high recruiting sergeant, drilling us in that compulsive stock-taking you've made your own. You try Brachiosaurus and Triceratops for the zing of ancient flesh on your tongue. Snap and catch in crazy zigzag among spume-sticky fusillades hurled by 9-footers during last night's gale. Pebbles come alive in your hands, flint eggs you call them, nesting them tight against your chest. We smash them for their innards like demented crows. You're Jacques Cousteau, cracking the depths in your airtight helmet, whilst we, your able seamen, merely slacken the ropes. Marvel as your head crackles in oceans far beyond us, letting monsters come up for air. And the second poem was inspired by watching ospreys fledge Online, I'd love to see it for real up in Scotland, but online is the next best thing. And this is called An Osprey Fledges. This scoop, this mossy bowl, these jagged battlements, and by the grace, talons gripping reef knots of sticks. Inexplicable wings rehearse the untried lightness, as if by decree or secret knowledge. Diamonds shake on the ruff of her neck. She twists 180 degrees, beaks the shrill sky, calling in an astounding new language. To kill, to feed, to mate. Her eyes are embossed with a glint of fish. The great tiled arches flex, unflex, stretch heraldic, beat, repeat, repeat against the drop, then up into her inheritance. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to reading everybody's work, and thank you, Cassia and Elizabeth. And bye-bye from the south of England, down here in Rottingdean, near Brighton.
Morning. Or it's morning now, but I guess we'd be listening to each other read and launch channel in the evening time maybe, so hello, whatever time it is. My name's Fergus Hogan, and I'd like to thank the editors and channel for including me in this wonderful collection again. The piece I'd like to read is called Snowbird, and it's about bird watching in the garden. It's about talking with the birds in the morning and the evening. It's about the time when the beast from the east came into Ireland and the flock of 100,000 redwings arrived on our shores. It's also it's written in a diary form, and it's also about a miscarriage that myself and my wife and myself experienced, and so it really means an awful lot to be in this journal. Thanks, guys. Snowbird. The redwings came into the garden on the tail from the beast of the east. When we woke, they were silent as the fallen snow. When they were gone, all that was left was the silence, dandelions in the garden, and the red stain. March the 1st. I got up before the birds this morning. I worried about them. The beast from the east was on the way, and we'd been warned, so I went out into the garden to clean the snow from the bird table. I left out feed, boiled the kettle to thaw the ice on their water well. I lit a candle on the kitchen table, set a pot of coffee on the stove to boil. By the time I sat down at the window, the birds had all returned. Blackbird, robin, great tit, long-tailed tit, cold tit, chaffinch, goldfinch, song thrush, blackcap. Irina lit the fire in the front room for the two of us, and the snow fell. March the 3rd. For 3 days we stayed home. We kept the stove lit and fed the birds. Without exaggeration, there must have been 60 or 70 redwings in the garden, and 8 fieldfares too, and they were all facing the east. I cut pears and apples in halves and quarters and tossed them out into the snow, and I watched the feeding frenzy unfold. I broke up the Christmas pudding into bits and threw it out too. I hard-boiled eggs and chopped them up and placed them on the kitchen windowsill. And when the birds had finished the last Christmas cake on the Sunday morning, I said, "Right, I'm going to Lidl. Is there anything we need or want?" And Irina laughed and said, "You're mad going out in this weather." And I said, "Will you keep your phone on and close by?" And she promised she would. Because truth be told, though we hadn't said a word, I think by then we both thought we were pregnant. again, my thanks to Elizabeth and Cassia, and to this beautiful journal channel. Snowbird. 14th of April, my mother's birthday and the anniversary of the Titanic sinking. It wasn't until I heard a starling call me back with a song that I'd never heard before that I turned around and wondered if I'd read all the signs wrong. Were you getting ready to leave, or were you already gone when I saw the blue tit in the nest box that early frosty morning? Or were you the burnt orange brambling that stayed of its own after the beast from the east had flown, and the flock of redwings, 100,000 deep, had left our cottage garden? Or were you the lapwing I dreamt about last night in the garden? Or the sodden starling chick I found dead in the thaw by the door of the church? May. A gentle breath of life and love, no more than a slow, soft kiss. You drifted in as silent as the snow overnight, and when we woke, you were there all around us. And we were in you too. And then you were gone. Over a long, dark 12-hour night of spotting and blood and tears and cries, you slipped between our hands and legs. You brought us closer together. You raised the vibration of love in our lives, and then you were gone before we even realized you'd slipped away, silently. That was the word the midwife used after our first scan, silent. And the word stood still for less than a second. A silent miscarriage, she tried to explain, so early in life, she went on, means. But I stopped listening. And I don't know where your mother went behind her tears, but I remember touching the midwife's arm as we left to thank her for her gentleness. I remember the sadness in her eyes too. And later, I remembered her saying, the only good news I can offer you now is that you conceived together naturally, and an early miscarriage is the body's way of getting ready for other babies. But now I wonder if I imagined or dreamed her saying that. It feels really important to me to be in this journal with this piece of writing, and to offer it up, and to share stories of miscarriage with other men and women, and realise how often it happens and how painful it can be. Gramina Mahagav, Galer, Slán.
So this is one of my poems that's in this current edition of Channel, which I'm very, very happy to be involved with. So thank you very much for that. So this is Marcia Heinsohn, and this is After Neverland. What if the nest never wanted eggs? It dreamed of wings instead of twigs. What if the sky was actually a wheel, and the rains the memory of bones? What if a heart is merely muscle, a train station for the blood to pass through? What if green has never seen itself on the newborn leaves of a rowan? I walked to the road ends at 6 a.m, heard the fells full on running away. The dawn was an adder drawn on with charcoal that dissipated the closer I got. I've held a swan goddess in my arms as she died. Wiped a table down, she could not find the mythical strength to fly from. I've given names to roses that bloomed from ventricles of a woodland that never knew visitors for decades. Friends have given me ghosts the way children give each other chickenpox. I carry their scars on the skin of my thoughts the way everyone else in the world does. I saw myself once in the mouth of a dragon before transformed back into a statue. I visit it sometimes to see the memory of myself growing as moss on its stone teeth. Nothing I ask for ever makes sense, so I speak the tongue of taxidermied witches. What if I'm a perfect anachronism of now? A woman with 10 heads caught inside the cellar of one. Offer me a thimble that is really an open window, and I'll give you the nightlife of a peculiar heart.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be here as part of the launch festivities today, and thanks a million to Lizzie and Cassie for including my work. I'm going to be reading the 2 poems that I have in issue 5, and the first one is called Nothing to See. Inert clouds of frog spawn, strewn in shallow standing water, gelatinous masses amid the soft-stemmed dock and pennyworth, static and saturated, so the only movement is occasional light fracturing an unstable surface. An inscrutable mosaic, until one single piece slips the static to breaststroke itself to another, then another, outliers revealing and concealing, scrambling the scene, crawling, sex-desperate backflippers, lurching indiscriminately, swelling to a heaving wave whose collective noun is not an army but an orgy of white-bodied, grey-bellied tesserae, muddying the surface world, touching every part, until the voyeur moves, exposed, the scene slams shut, and the mottled surface settles. Nothing to see here. The second poem is an inverted sonnet of sorts, and it's called Landscape. For weeks now, wonder has been wafting away, like new Pope smoke from the Poolbeg incinerator. In the frame of the sash window, dim and middle greys turn up the silence of 2 slow-dancing Meccano cranes, reconfiguring the angles of subtle change. Nothing to be done now about middle age, except walk out into the perfect storm of it, stand in the spate of the moment soaked to your skin and its lichen liver spots, to the peel of your pepper bark, shake out your light of baroque gloss, and let go your leaves on the silver stream that slicks for a second on the lip of the Phibsborough Road.
My name is Elizabeth J. Coleman, and I'm so pleased to be reading a poem to you that appears in Channel Issue 5. I live in New York City, and I also have a cabin in the Catskill Forest where I can be closer to nature. This poem, Nightly Migration, celebrates the infinite variety and beauty in our natural world and the vast beauty and variety in our experiences and imaginations and memories and how they might join together in poetry. It's inspired too by an article I read in the New York Times and by the wonderful stories I've learned from my sister, our family historian. So thank you so much to Channel for having me here today. Nightly migration. Every night, 1,000,000 creatures, larvae and invertebrates, no larger than a human fingernail, rise from 1,000 feet below the surface of the sea, eat, return before sunrise to lightless deep. My father made my mother promise not to paint her fingernails red. He agreed not to go to a single baseball game. She never to the opera. Her wedding dress, blue, knee-length, demure, innocent yet sly, as if only for the man with the Clark Gable mustache at that intimate wedding table. The inch-long larval lionfish spreads an invisible fan on either side with points of light at the end of each fin. Iridescent, luminous, blue. Thank you.
I held us on for 36 hours after the levee broke to hell. They were old enough to have muscle, no baby ankles or elbows. They knew how to climb, but it was still the hardest part. I was the only one in shoes. They could grip. I told them to reach up, then down, no splinter. They used my thighs as steps. I found near top steel spike underfoot. I sat facing each, them holding the phone pole, me holding both in frog legs. My husband was a builder, said a triangle is the strongest shape. I keep my feet wrapped around the pole, make a triangle with my legs, another with my arms. I beg, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Then I beg my husband, passed on a year, to help us. Promise him I won't let ours go to him, that we won't all come now. They haven't married, loved like we did. After the first day, they do not cry my name, but Daddy. My children say, you're sure stronger than you look. I say, strong isn't like the storybooks, but the parables. We watch the waters rise as the sun sets. Sun rises again, and they cry out again. I've never seen this before. It's not right. Everything is covered. I count by pressing my fingers with each prayer. I don't tell them it helps my cramping these locking hands. We say each prayer a decade at a time. At the hour of our death, world without end, Holy Mother. I knew my hands would not fail me, but water eating away at our seat, sky not holding me like it never does. When they pulled me onto the boat, I did not care. Ma'am, my name is Leroy. See the boat below? You're safe. But he was wet, safe is dry. Ma'am, your hands swole up. I'm here to get y'all down. Once he had them, I fell. His one eye green, the other blue, like my husband's. I knew I could let go.
Cliff walk.
Our words locked in the Volvo, we leave Bray. Your shoulders set my compass, nothing slows your step. I skid on shale, dodge slate, follow the ancient path. A stone cross skyline. I find the air moves differently in your wake. Shoot past samphire, see mallow. Red valerian that poker across, bleed cerise to meet the intent of your boot. Razorbills car, somersault wave-cut platforms, dash black and white, skirt froth, whispers of surf, music from a rowboat in the cove, a man singing to his Labrador, snout to sky at the prow. Cliff-foot tunnels whine out trains as off-pace tourists chatter, brandish guidebooks. Both routes equidistant, a granite milestone carves our choice. We go on, knowing rock face will give way to sandy banks. A field of tall grass hides the swell of Greystone's harbour. Platform whistles will stab the silence. A light rail dart take us back to the start. A red dot spark will flash the blinkers, grumble to release central locking. Thank you.
My name is Marjorie Schatz McNamara. I live in Burlington, North Carolina. My poem is for Judy Hogan, who was one of my earliest poetry teachers. The Day Out for Judy Hogan. She stands by the chicken fence, a wool scarf knotted around her head, the pocket of her red garden coat with string and scissors patched with gray duct tape. She cuts long pieces of expensive nylon string to tie the chicken fence. I say she is extravagant with the string. She laughs and cuts another piece which hangs down the wire after she knots it. I come to help her garden. She says I am a passionate weeder. I correct her. A compassionate weeder, I say, pulling mint which smothers lemongrass, thyme, self-heal. Leave the mint, she says, to sell at the farmer's market. After the mint took over my garden, I grow it high in an old wheelbarrow. I pull mint while she isn't looking. For lunch, a table set with pottery plates and home-dyed napkins, cheese grilled on the bread she makes, slices of green pepper, apples to the side. She talks to me about scheduling time to write. Before I came, she cleaned the 3-room house by washing all the dishes. Her grandson calls her the pot hider because she hides the dirty dishes under the wood stove. She shows me her bedroom, cardboard boxes stacked to ceiling filled with journals begun in childhood, a narrow path between the boxes to her bed. They need to be archived, she said, or one day sold for money. I say my husband has a room like hers with old computers, boxes of receipts in towers round his desk. Back to weeding after lunch till she tires. I like the company of the white hens on the other side of the fence. They coo, not cluck, digging at the fresh dirt in the garden we released them into. They sound like a lullaby. She talks to them, and her voice changes, peaks with chicken questions. I throw them chickweed clods to eat high in the air, watch the hens scatter below to dodge the dirt. One hen stays close by me, beak moving in and out through the holes in the fence. I give it a cutworm. It wants more. There's always one, she says, that tries to get out.
My name is Erin Wilson. I live in Northern Ontario, Canada. And I'd like to thank Elizabeth and Cassia for including me in this next issue of Channel magazine. The poem I'll read is Vowels in Treetops, and it's in 2 parts. Vowels in Treetops. 1. You're playing beneath the arbor that trains the lilac branches overhead, imagining you're discovering dinosaur fossils. brushing with a dry paintbrush the sidewalk that's cracked and crumbled with weather and time. Come here, I urge you to unfurl from over your bent legs, to find me watching and waiting for you in the porch swing. I want to tuck you, dirty little thing, into my body, an ingot, and sing with you. My mother's strongest compliment about my childhood was that, although I was seen, I was seldom heard, a generational bias. This is one reason I'm so intent to be near you, to inherit your griminess, to celebrate together, body to body, sound in sound. 2. Sometimes pine and pine, sometimes pine and poplar. I have walked 1,000 miles beneath the canopy, pining, until I arrived at this understanding. What was lost was not me, and what was found was not here, but rather the connection. Today, wind. I would like the world to have a word for the sound emitted between two trees grieving, the place of in-betweenness, something between family and keening. The wind arrives at the edge of the woods. I pause and wait for the wind to work the tallest trees, which in turn push their kin further onward, a malleable wave. When the wind comes forward, and the two that support one another make that sound again, I know it and name it a kinning. Thank you.
Hi again, thanks for tuning in tonight. We really hope you've enjoyed the chance to hear from some of our contributors, and we'll look forward to sharing all their work with you in issue 5. If you'd like to buy a copy, you can head on over to our online shop. There's a link in the description box, and we ship both within Ireland and internationally. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to receive each new issue as it comes out, and we'll look forward to sending issue 5 out to all our subscribers this week. If you're based in Ireland, you can also buy a copy of this issue from one of our statists, who are listed on our website. They're a wonderful group of independent bookshops and small businesses that we'd encourage you to support. Before we finish up for tonight, I want to say a huge thanks again to the Arts Council and to our patrons, whose contributions buoy us up and sustain our work. Hojat Intazari, Hannah Dasom Gilmartin, Naomi Dew, Sarah Nishikawa, Finina Driscoll, and Denise Wilson, as well as those who prefer not to be named. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to donate to the channel or become a patron to support our work, thank you very much in advance, and you can find out how to do that on our website. That's all from me for tonight, so thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you again in the spring.
Hi everyone, thanks again for tuning in tonight. I want to echo Cassia in thanking our patrons, subscribers, and all those that pre-ordered issue 5, as well as the Arts Council for their generous support, and of course all of our contributors for entrusting us with their work. It's a privilege to publish such dynamic and varied and beautiful pieces that contribute to reshaping and affirming the place of nature writing in our social, political, and creative worlds. If you'd like to submit work for publication within Channel, submissions for issue 6 will open on the 15th of November and stay open until the 31st of December. There's a link to our submission guidelines in the description box below, and we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to get updates on this and future submission windows. Okay, that's it for now. A big thanks to everyone again. We hope you enjoy issue 5 and an easy start to winter. Good night.